Hey, I really appreciate you guys being here. And I told Tom Canterbury in the pregame radio interview that I thought this was Beth's best team in Troy. And I definitely think that after playing them. I think they're very solid, very good pitcher, good defense, and they take some cuts. So I think they're going to do really, really well this year in the Sun Belt. And, it's fun to play a quality team game after game after game. So I want to say thanks to Memphis and UNC and obviously Troy for coming this weekend because it was a fun tournament. And we lucked out with the weather. Today is, 75 or 82 and sunny. And so much for the forecast, huh?
All right, we'll go ahead and get things started with Brett.
Hey, Coach, congrats on the wins. You harped on it when your opening statement. Speak to me a little bit how nice it is to be able to play such good teams in the beginning of the year. Kind of had a regional feel to it. Last night, in particular, you faced a really good UNC pitcher. You guys struggled a little bit, but you got the win. Speak on that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And, as the competition gets better and better and better, the execution by our hitters needs to go up as well. So if the pitching is great, the execution needs to be even better. So today, Bailey Dowling, probably the first time she's been asked to bunt since 9th grade, she puts down a perfect sacrifice bunt. Kayla Davis has the heads up base running play of the day. And she sees that third base is open and she, tears into third base and they throw it away and that's a run. So 2 base running positives for us today gave us those 2 runs. And in a game like this, you got to rely on the pitcher and the defense and then hope that something falls. Well, not much fell for us today, but those 2 base running keys basically won the game.
Go ahead, Robert.
Coach, up until these last couple of days, your offense has been very productive. How important do you think it is for your pitchers to throw in games where the offense isn't producing before conference play starts?
Well, it's very good for us. So even though I hate it as a coach and I get frustrated inside and, of course I want us to hit, 600 and score 10 runs every game. Realistically, that's not going to happen. So these close games are very good for us because everybody needs to feel that anxiety, like when Taylor Clark went in there for defense in the 7th inning, she needs to get that feeling of, this is a close game. So it's good for us. It's good for the pitchers. It's good for everybody because you can't really recreate that anxiety in practice. I'd love to, but it's not the same when you have a crowd, you have a TV game, you have umpires, you have, all these outside forces, coming down on you. It helps you out.
Good, James.
I just want you to touch on Lexi's performances. I mean, the no-hitter is great, but only throws 84 in that game, and then today only throws 83. What's just the key for her to keep her pitch count down? And, talk a little bit about when she does get to 0-2 and what's that mindset going in there?
Well, as a drop ball pitcher, when it is working, it's just the hardest thing to lay off. Because it looks like it's coming right over the plate and it's like, oh, I'm going to hit this one. And then boom, it falls off the table. And for the most part, it happened today. Her probably one mistake was the 0-2 to the second baseman, the double in the gap. Okay. 0-2, that's probably not the pitch that she wanted to throw. So credit to hitter. But other than that, I think they got a bunt single and I don't even remember their other hit. So, she did a great job. Her off speed was good. Her location was pretty good. Abby, I thought, did a really nice job behind the plate, blocking everything because as a pitcher, if you're going to throw curveballs and balls in the dirt constantly to make them swing and miss, the pitcher has to have confidence in the girl catching. Because if she does not have confidence in the catcher, those balls are going to start creeping up in the zone and then she's going to get hit. But today I thought Abby did a really good job. I don't think anything got by her. And, the combination was really good. And Steph Steph didn't throw, but Steph called a good game on her birthday. So she gets credit for the shutout.
Go ahead, Katie.
Hey, Coach. I know you talked a little bit about base running earlier, but clearly you can't win every game off of just hitting. What is your mindset for the players when it comes to base running? What do you tell them in terms of base running?
Well, I think, as a base runner, you try to create havoc. We're smart, aggressive. Okay. And I always liken it to, as you watch the game, as it's early in the game, your pressure goes through the roof in terms of base runner. As the game goes along and along and along, and it's close, 6th inning, 7th inning, you have to be a lot smarter. You can a little bit less aggressive, but early in the game, go for it. And I think that's what Davis did. Mac, same thing. She basically got us the first run with her speed, and then Davis got us the second run with her speed. So I think it's a skill that not enough people practice it to begin with. And we spend a lot of time on it. Almost every practice, at least 15 minutes of just going through things. So I'm proud of the base running. And, I always say team offense. The definition of team offense is scoring when you're not hitting. And today was a good example of that.
I'll go back to Robert.
Coach, yesterday during the first game against UNC, Bailey hit a home run to move her into the 4th spot for most career RBIs in Alabama history. Can you talk about that accomplishment and how insane that is?
I think she passed Kretschmann, right? So, that's a 3-time Olympian that you just passed. And there's just, I looked at that list. I saw it on the TV coverage, the 4 ladies on that list. There's some hellacious hitters on that list. And Charlotte Morgan up at the top, holy buckets. I think she has like 284. That's a lot of RBIs in a career. And it's number one, you have to be confident. And number 2, I think the other word is consistent. Those 2, confident and consistent. It described Kretschmann. It described Charlotte Morgan. It definitely describes Bailey. Just to bring a consistent presence every game in and game out, you're going to be good if you can do that. And I know it's easier said than done, because baseball and softball are just, you got to be mentally strong to be a really good hitter, because it's a game of failure. And Bailey is as good as they come.
Go ahead, James.
You talked about how the consistency for the hitters when the games get tighter and tighter and tighter need to go up and up and up. But tonight your hitters seem to do a really good job of making sure they stayed alive in counts, and that drove Troy's pitcher, Leanna Johnson. Her pitch count went way through the roof. Even though it didn't pay off for you guys tonight, how do you make sure that your hitters don't get rattled when they do go down 0-2 or they are behind, and keep them kind of in that moment where they can still stay alive at bats and go for 7, 8, 9 pitch at bats?
Yeah, well, there's a quality at bat definition of, if you do get 0-2, you see at least 3 more pitches. So you foul 2 off, take a ball, whatever. You can make her throw 6. That's a quality at bat. And I think a lot of them did that. I do think, though, that we had a couple that probably could have walked and swung at a pitch and maybe pop up to shortstop or whatever. But that's the quality pitcher. Again, she wants you to swing at balls. She doesn't want you to swing a strike down the middle. We all could hit that. So a good pitcher forces a hitter to think last second, do I want to swing at this or do I take this? And then the end result is, you're going to talk to Lexi in a second. A lot of times with hers is like, here comes the pitch. It looks good. And then boom, they swing right over the top of it. And they're like, oh my God, I thought that was going to be a strike. And that's the luxury of having a pitcher who throws pitches, whose ball moves. And you guys, now that, you've been here for, quite a few games, you can see the difference, as a sports writer and a fan, you can see when somebody is moving the ball versus just throwing a fastball. There is a difference.
All right, we'll go ahead and give Robert the last question here.
Coach, to kind of build on what you said about the ball moving, yesterday Montana's curveball really looked to sweep away from the right-handed hitters. What do you think she needs to focus on, or what she does focus on, in order to throw a good curveball in a game?
If she doesn't need to yank it, because sometimes if she tries too hard, it ends up high and away. If she stays nice and smooth, doesn't try to overthrow it, it curves away from a right-handed hitter. That's what you want, obviously. Opposite would be curving into a lefty hitter and kind of sawing them off at the handle. So if she tries to overdo it, that's when the ball kind of comes up out of the zone and it doesn't move much. So I think if you rely on your spin, like Kilfoyl, if she overthrows, it's just going to become a fastball, you know? And I thought today, I really did. I was thinking, you know, I was telling the managers at the end of the dugout, I said, you know, she's gone back-to-back days here. I was thinking that her ball was going to move even more because she was going to rely on her spin more than the speed. So you can ask her that question and I want to see what her answer is.
All right, we'll wrap it up there and move on to Lex.
Hey, again, James, it's been a pleasure, buddy. And if you ever need anything, just ask, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, we'll start things off here with Lex and we'll give Robert the opening question.
Hey, Lexi, congrats on your performances yesterday and today. Today, 6 of your 9 strikeouts came with runners on base. Do you take it to another gear when runners are on, or is it just a coincidence that the strikeouts came in those type of situations?
Yeah, I definitely try when I get runners on, I really try to focus on getting the batter and just getting it out, because when batters do get on, people tend to get rattled, people in the infield, they tighten up a little bit. So I really focus on just spinning my pitches and making sure that I'm going after the batter and just the batter.
Go ahead, James.
Hey, Lexi, can you just talk a little bit about, you know, what Murph kind of left us with? You know, you relied a lot on your speed today and maybe not as much on your spin, but again, going on back-to-back days, that seemed to be kind of the game plan going in. What made you want to go to that adjustment, and you know, how is it working for you today?
Yeah, so throwing back-to-back days, obviously 7 innings and then 7 innings the next day, it's not the easiest on my body. So I definitely was a little bit tired today, and I kind of had that in my mind. So I had to go into it thinking that I need to use what I know to use when my body's tired. So today I wasn't throwing as hard as I was yesterday. So I definitely was relying on my spin a little bit more, and it kind of forced the batters to chase the ball. So I put the pressure on them to put the ball in play instead of putting the pressure on myself.
Go ahead, Katie.
Hey, Lexi. So after throwing your no-hitter the other day, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what was your mindset coming into today's game, knowing that you got the start, and how did you feel about that?
So yeah, coming into today, I kind of put yesterday in the past, and because that doesn't mean anything today. It's a new opponent. So I came out thinking, just do what I know how to do, use everything I got, use my drop ball, use my changeup, and just be ready for anything. Attack the batters one at a time, and it worked.
All right, back to Robert.
Lexi, last season you looked really good, but this season you looked even more dialed in. What type of mental preparation did you do coming into the season, like during the off season and on a night-to-night basis?
I definitely looked back at old games and learned from my mistakes for sure. Like Arizona last year, it was a big game for me to throw, and I was a little bit nervous. I was a little shaken up. And so there were a lot of negatives from that game that I kind of learned from. And so I always try and learn from my mistakes and try not to let them happen again. So I think I got mentally stronger in that aspect, and I continue to look at all my mistakes and try and improve from them.
Go ahead, James.
Can you just talk about, like, do you love pitching in these games where you're not getting a lot of offensive help, and it's kind of on your shoulders? Is there a difference in the approach, and do you just love pitching in these type of games?
I definitely do. It does help when we have a bunch of runs. It's a little bit of a cushion for me because I can kind of drop my shoulders a little bit. I can relax a little bit more. But pitching in these games is definitely a lot of fun because if I really have to focus on spinning the ball and doing what I know how to do. So I definitely enjoy both, but a few runs does help a little bit. But in the end, we always have each other's backs. Like if people are making errors, in the field, I have their back and I go out the batters and I strike them out. And likewise, if I give up a strong base hit or something, they have my back and they make awesome plays.
Go ahead, Brett.
Coming off of James' question there, you spoke about it a little bit. Last night, for example, in your no-hitter, you had a close game. You were able to come through with an RBI double of your own. I know in high school you were a hitter. You batted, I think I just read it, 583. How great is it to get back in the box, to be able to get that first hit of the year and to be able to come with an RBI?
Yeah, it feels really good because I did in the fall, I did struggle a little bit because I had to take time off. But it felt good to get back in the box, and I feel like I put less pressure on myself, and I just went out there, tried to have fun and try to make contact with the ball, and it ended up working in my favor. So I kind of went out there relaxed, and it's really fun getting out there and hitting it. Sometimes it takes my mind off pitching, and then when I go back out pitching, it takes my mind off hitting. So it works in both ways.
All right, we'll give James the last question.
You know, your batters today really drove up Leanna Johnson's pitch count. I think she finished like up over 110 or something like that, but you finished with 84, 83. How do you make sure that at-bats don't get to that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th pitch? And how do you dial in, especially when you're up 0-2?
I definitely try and focus on getting ahead on batters because I know there's some kind of, what's it called? Like if you get ahead on batters, if you get 2 strikes before you get 2 balls, you have a better chance of them getting out. So I kind of have that in the back of my mind and try and get 2 strikes before I get 2 balls so that I could get ahead of them, and then it puts the pressure on them instead of myself. So I definitely try to get ahead of the batters. And then when it comes to 0-2 pitches, I still have the same mindset. I'm still trying to strike them out, and I guess not really give them as good of a pitch, because today I did give up an 0-2 hit and the ball just slipped, where that's the last thing we want. But on 0-2, I need to work on, I guess, getting the ball more out of the strike zone.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.